Hey everyone, welcome to my channel. Well, this is part 2 of a 4-part review on the XDynamics Evolve 2. This episode's all about the ground station. First thing you'll notice, just like an expensive camera, you get a neck strap to carry your ground station around, and it's securely bolted into the ground station. Taking a look at the back of the controller, this is the right hand side. The first button is for snapping a photo. The next button, the B2 button, is customizable to anything you'd like. Next you have a dial, so you can tilt the gimbal, the camera, to the left or the right as you desire. The reason you would do this is if you're lining up for a shot on an angle and the image looks a little skewed, you can adjust it so it looks correct. Finally, this is the location where you will attach your external antenna, high gain antenna if you have them. If you don't, then you'll just do like me and use the internal antennas. Now looking at the left rear of the controller, you can see your second external antenna attachment. Then you have your position switch for altitude mode, position mode, and sport mode. You also have your customizable B1 button, customize it to whatever you want. Next you have your video record button, and finally you have your gimbal functions. So the gimbal can actually look up above horizon, the camera looks up above horizon, and you can look all the way down 90 degrees, and you can go past 90 degrees. As you can see here, I'm going beyond 90, and if you wish you can flip it straight back up with a touch of a button. On the rear of the ground station you have 3 ports. One is for a micro SD card. You can increase the storage of the ground station if you wish. The next one over is a USB-C, and the third one is an HDMI port. The ground station battery is rechargeable and removable, and when you slide it off, here is what the specifications on the rear look like. Finally, you have 4 additional customizable buttons to anything you want, plus a tripod mount. To charge the ground station, the charge port is located right here. Unfolding the ground station reveals 2 displays. The top display is an 8-inch touchscreen with a 1000 nit brightness. At the top of the display is a microphone which is not activated. We also have a camera which is not activated, but we do have a light sensor which is activated. Looking at the right hand side of the ground controller, we have the speaker, the right hand joystick, and the return to home button. Next we have an indicator light, and below that we have our 5.5-inch touchscreen with a brightness of 1000 nits. On the left hand side we have the power button, followed by the left joystick, and finally the auto takeoff and auto land button. Alright, let's get everything working. So let's power on the Evolve 2, double click on the power button. Next go over to the ground station and just press the power button and it will start up. I'm going to speed everything up here. It takes about 10 seconds for everything to get going, and here we have it. If you have an internet connection, you'll get weather data. To enter the interface on the ground station, just touch the Start Here button. Now if you had attached external antennas, high gain antennas, this is where you would select them, external, but if you have the internal ones, just leave it on internal. On this screen you can also confirm that your sensors are behaving correctly. You enter the settings menu by pressing the gear icon at the top right. It's very important before your first flight that you set your return to home height to be higher than everything else around you. As well, if you're going to fly around a lot of objects, you might want to turn this option on. This is where you're going to customize all those buttons on the ground station. Here you can see the video transmission coming from the drone back to the ground station. It's shooting back at 1080p. If you want to get a longer flight time, closer to 30 minutes, then I would highly suggest you change everything to 15% for the low battery warning. Now when I fly, I use my cell phone as a hotspot to give the ground controller a Wi-Fi signal to get the maps. However, if you don't have such a thing, you can download the maps ahead of time, as you see me doing right here. If there's a firmware update for any component of the drone or ground station, you'll be notified and it will show up at one of the spots here. And when you run the firmware, you can just basically run it and walk away. I've done 3 firmware updates since I've had this drone, and all of them have been very, very smooth. Now the ground station does have internal storage, quite a bit of it too, as you can see, to cache all your videos and your photos that you take and all your telemetry. When you're ready to fly, just touch the Ready to Fly button and you'll be taken to a map of where you're standing. You can scroll up from the bottom to see other weather information as long as you have a Wi-Fi connection. I didn't use one here. You can also see the RPMs of your motors when they're spinning, your battery, and quite a few other bits of information. The map, you can change it to a satellite view if you wish as you fly around. Your icon of your drone is always shown on the map, so you'll always see where you are. You can zoom in or scroll around the map as you desire. Looking at the bottom of the home screen, you can find your album. These are all the videos and photos that the ground station has cached for you. So every time you went for a flight, it saves your flight, videos or photos, on the ground station, and you can review them at any time. All flight information is captured under the pilot icon, so go to flight records and you can see all the flights you've taken so far. There's my total flight time, and down there that's my top altitude for each flight, and that's my top distance for each flight. Now the distances look large, that's total distance. Now I just want to show you a quick little example of how this can be pretty cool. So I'm going to pick one of my flights where I actually crashed my drone. Yes, I crashed this drone. So there was a flight I did at a local park, and you can see it's drawing the outline of where it was going. Look at the bottom left, that's the RPM of the motors. Right here is where I'm going to encounter a problem. So I'm going to zoom in. So I'm just playing back what happened. And right there where I'm pointing, that's a cell tower for cell phones. It was much higher than the drone. So I'm flying along and I saw the cell tower and I'm going to go behind it. But because of where I was standing, I lost transmission. Yep. So the drone's going to go into return to home. But when it went into return to home, it crashed into the cell tower because I had it go straight home. So you're going to see it crash here. But watch the RPMs in the bottom left. Watch the motors because I damaged one prop on one motor. Watch this. It's about, there we go. 12% it went down to. And it spun out of control, and then it regained itself and it came back to me. I'll show you. I have video from it. I can show you right here on the ground station. So here I am flying. Drone is going to move to the right, and right on the right is a cell tower, and I'm starting to lose. Whoa! And then all of a sudden when my video reception comes back, there's the cell tower. Bang! And yeah, so the drone, it flew back. I thought it was a goner then, but nope, it flew back to me and it came back, and I thought it was gonna, be kind of wonky, but look at how smooth it is. This is the actual video of it coming back to me. So it lands, and then I'm going to go check what the damage is. I do have a scuff on the actual motor side, and one of the props, as you can see right there, is kind of destroyed. I thought I might have damaged the LED lights underneath as well because it flipped around quite a bit, but they look to be okay. Now let's take a look at our main display. This is where there's a lot of information. So going from left to right, the first item is speed. Second item is your altitude. Third item is your distance from home. Fourth item is the aircraft status.
Altitude mode, position mode, sport mode, position mode.
Fifth item is Wi-Fi signal. Sixth item is GPS signal and number of GPS satellites. Number 7 would be your ground station signal. Number 8 would be your image transmission signal. Number 9 is your aircraft battery status. Number 10 is your ground station battery status. Number 11 is the current time. Your remaining flight time is shown on this green line. The green line will get shorter until it gets to where that pink arrow is, and that's your return to home. Now for me in my filming, I like to use manual settings and manual focus. As you can see here, you can adjust it manually, but for most people you might want to use autofocus. So I'm going to switch to autofocus right here and just show you where it is. And when you do autofocus, then you can just tap on what you wish to focus on. So depending on your aperture and the lens, you can get depth of field or autofocus. I'll show you that later as we're coming up in the video here. Now when using manual settings, you can do some crazy things, like check this out. I just cranked the ISO to 25,000. Most drones don't have 25,000, they stop at like 3,000. So like I said, this is like a real camera. You can do all the settings manually that you would on a real camera. Now I'll quickly show you the video camera settings. So we're in video mode, and going down you'll see I'm always filming in manual mode. You do have auto, time value, aperture value. Also video mode is normal. There's my video size. It's quite large. You can record up to 200 megabits per second. I leave it at 100. H.264, H.265, and the 3 types of ProRes. Each type of ProRes gets larger and larger in size. I like to leave my metering at center because that's what I'm pointing at. White balance is actually really good on this drone. Autofocus, I put it on manual here. It's on auto because I was just showing you that. Video style is pretty important. If you don't know what you're doing, this is where you want to set things up. You can see my sharpness at the bottom. I have it at 5. But anyways, punchy is what I use on cloudy overcast days. I don't really use low contrast. That's if I want to do some post processing. Ansel is, black and white film noir. It does look really good, probably the best black and white I've seen. But if you have no plans to do post-processing, then just use Punchy. Punchy is pretty good because it brings it very similar to like a DJI camera drone. In other words, the contrast is way overdone. Here I'm showing you some basic camera settings to help you out. I always leave the histogram on, the grid display is on. I use focus peaking because I use manual focus. Noise reduction, if you're shooting in ProRes, you must turn that on. It helps out quite a bit. Color profile, I always leave it at standard. My, come on, finger, go down. My record media right there, I always always leave it at CFast because that's what I record to. I never use the micro SD card. The file name, when I'm working on projects, I like to modify the file name here on the card so it matches the project. Here I can format either the SD or the CFast. Moving down to the bottom right, that little icon there is the last video or photo you took in case you want to review it really quick. Going along the bottom, these are all your camera settings. Make sure you know how to use a camera, because if you don't, you are not going to get good results with this drone after spending a ton of cash. You're going to be quite upset. Here I put the aperture at wide open at f1.8, adjusted all the other settings, and now I have depth of field. So if I want to focus on a blade of grass, I can focus on a blade of grass and make some awesome videos when I'm flying around, you know, focus on things near or far, and it looks quite professional. Here we have all your resolution settings on the left and all your frames per second settings on the right. You can see there's quite a bit for each resolution. Looking at the bottom left, this is the angle of your camera. As you go down, you can see it goes negative, and as you go up, it goes back to 0 or positive if you go above the horizon. Now, I am quite happy with this drone, but I do have one negative with the video transmission. Watch this. Look at the lag time. I find it's quite a bit. You don't notice it when you're flying, but if you're going to head for a tree or something, yeah, that lag could cause a problem. Now, if you haven't watched part 1 of my video series on the review of the Evolve 2, please watch it because I'll show you all the features of the drone, all the specification, what makes it so great. And then, this is part 2 you're watching now, which had the ground station. In part 3, we are going to check out how good is that camera. You know, how does it work at night, in bright sunlight, in, you know, dull days? In part 4 will be me taking the Evolve 2 out for a flight and you coming along with me, you know, from start to finish, flying one full battery. I just want to show you exactly some of the cool things you can do with the drone just out and about, out in the field. By then, many of the firmware updates should be out, so it should be great. So stay tuned for that. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up, and I will catch you in future videos with many more reviews. Bye!